The Valari homeworld burned in silence, its skies, once shimmering with copper auroras, now choked with smoke and the remains of shattered defense satellites, orbiting fragments of former pride. The Zarkid Dominion didn't invade with fleets. They consumed. They arrived in silence, disabled communications within hours, and tore through cities with planetary incinerators. Valari resistance collapsed in 4 planetary rotations. In a hidden military station beneath the surface of the moon Verum, the last remnants of Valari command assembled. No titles remained, no hierarchy, only survivors, each one bleeding, trembling, and still holding on to their last sliver of purpose. Commander Elriki, face scorched from a direct hit on the orbital command deck, slammed her hand on the signal core. The quantum pulse igniter hummed. "It's a blind scream," she said. "Anyone could answer." "Or no one," replied a technician, hand shaking as he aligned the pulse. The signal burst out from the remains of Valari territory like a desperate heartbeat, carried across dimensions, slipping past listening posts and quarantine sectors. It was marked with a single identifier, Plea for help, in the TRAPPIST Listening Array 7, located at the edge of Sol-controlled space. Automated systems flagged the incoming transmission as anomalous. 77 seconds later, it was decrypted and reconstructed by artificial cognition arrays. The signature was alien. The distress format was ancient and violated known quadrant protocols. The AI core hesitated for 0.03 seconds. Then, following Standing Directive Theta 5, it pinged Earth. Earth didn't hesitate. A message went out from EarthGov Command Authority to Deep Space Expeditionary Command. 2 minutes later, a vessel was activated in low Saturn orbit, one of the few human DreadOps vessels built for autonomous first contact and high-risk asset extraction. Designation: Torchbearer. The crew numbered 5. The ship's command AI housed another 100 contingencies. Coordinates were locked, warp tunneling initialized. Destination: a sector no one dared to mention, marked dark by the Galactic Concord, Valari territory. Torchbearer emerged from folded space directly into a debris field. Shattered Valari dreadnoughts drifted like bones in a vacuum. Zarkid cruisers moved with slow, deliberate aggression, scanning for life signatures, erasing survivors where they found them. A swarm of destroyers pivoted to intercept the human vessel. No dialogue was offered. No hailing frequency opened. Torchbearer didn't decelerate. 3 kinetic spears were deployed at relativistic velocity. Zarkid ships disintegrated before their sensors could register impact. A black cloud of microdrones deployed from Torchbearer's spine, infecting enemy targeting arrays and silencing their comms. What remained of the Zarkid force began to retreat. On the surface below, Valari survivors watched the sky burn. Elriki stared at the massive triangular silhouette descending through the ash, backlit by fire and ruin. Her voice cracked as she whispered the words no one believed would ever be spoken again. Someone answered. A side hatch on the ship opened with mechanical finality. 3 figures stepped out, tall, armored, unreadable. One approached, helmet never removed. The suit had no insignia, no national flag. Only a mark burned into the shoulder, a torch surrounded by orbiting stars. You sent a distress signal. The voice was metallic, male, emotionless. We are the response. Valari soldiers, those still able to stand, lowered their weapons. Some cried. Others watched, wary. Elriki stepped forward. We have nothing left. Not your concern, the human said. Valari physicians attempted to explain their species' biology. The human scanned them once, nodded, and immediately applied medical aid that stopped internal hemorrhaging in seconds. Their tools were advanced, but clinical. Nothing about their conduct was compassionate. It was efficient. Torchbearer's orbit stabilized. Inside, the Valari were taken to isolated decontamination zones. Not asked for names. Not shown concern. Everything was observed, cataloged, and processed. Elriki was the first to speak again. Why did you come? Protocol. The AI replied to the internal comms. Humanity does not ignore distress calls within reach. But the galaxy warned us about you, she said. We know. In a hidden chamber aboard Torchbearer, A quiet meeting was being observed by a member of EarthGov's strategic presence. He watched the footage of Valari civilians crying, soldiers kneeling, and Zarkith corpses floating in space. He noted reactions, calculated timelines, and authorized Phase 2. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Concord held an emergency session. Species from every quadrant debated the implications. One delegate from the Zarin Accord spoke. The humans weren't supposed to respond. Their territory is death space. No one returns. A representative from the Relashi stated simply, they didn't respond because of politics. They responded because it was a cry for help. And that terrifies me, muttered the Varnak diplomat, because they didn't come for conquest. They didn't come for resources. They came because they decided to. Back aboard Torchbearer, the crew ignored alien communications. Hundreds of messages flooded in. Questions, demands, warnings. The AI filtered them all. A few select feeds were routed to the human captain. They're scared, he said. They should be, replied his second-in-command. The Valari shipyards were gone, their capital in ruins. Yet as the humans extracted survivors and distributed supplies without asking for loyalty, a strange energy grew among the Valari. They began to rebuild, not with hope, but with focus. Orders were given, systems repowered, plans sketched in the ashes. Elriki approached the human captain. You saved us, but why not leave after extraction? We don't abandon people mid-fight. This isn't your war. Not yet. Word spread. Whispered legends returned in Valari halls of a species that once isolated itself after a galactic betrayal, a species that made a promise. If ever called again, they would not hesitate. No politics, no alliances, only response. Zarka surveillance picked up the data trail left by the Torchbearer. In one of their war halls, a Zarka strategist reviewed the footage of the human ship's attack. She rewound the moment a cruiser was speared to the core by an invisible strike. She issued a priority-level broadcast. Do not engage Terrans. Torchbearer's AI recorded everything. Valari resilience. Zarkith cowardice. Galactic panic. It calculated the timeline until full escalation. Human command reviewed the numbers. Approved reinforcements. Quietly, from the edge of soul space, more ships began to stir. Elriki found herself invited into the control center of Torchbearer. The room was silent. One wall displayed thousands of red dots, ships, fleets, bases. The AI spoke softly. These are known Zarkith targets. We will start here. You plan a war? She asked. No, said the AI. We finish one. When Torchbearer departed, it left behind food, tools, power sources, and encrypted communications for the Valari. No promises, no demands. Only one phrase embedded into the terminal message. You asked for help. We responded. Stay alive. The ship folded space and vanished. Galactic networks exploded. Images of a human ship circulated on black channels. Rumors of an ancient fleet returning. Species that once whispered about the Terran wars of silence began to. The Zarkith Dominion had never lost a system. Not to the Valari, not to the Relashi, not to the Concord. Their war doctrine was brutal, simple, and devastating. Erase resistance before it spreads. The appearance of a Terran vessel and the subsequent annihilation of 3 Zarkith strike wings triggered immediate retaliatory measures. Zarkith Command dispatched a Dread-class fortress ship, Mordek, with 6 escort arms to the Valari perimeter. They broadcast a demand. Surrender the Terran entity, or suffer systemic extinction. Valari Command forwarded the threat to the human relay. Response: come and try. Torchbearer hadn't returned alone. 3 more ships arrived. Warden-class cruisers armed with variable-yield antimatter rails and mobile interdiction nets. Each one bore no names, only a series of planetary coordinates engraved on their hulls. Battlefields, all of them. Valari survivors began integrating Terran tech. It wasn't shared, it was installed. Tactical AIs embedded in helmets. Energy field generators calibrated to Valari biology. Old Valari bunkers activated again with Terran nuclear cores. It was silent rearmament, facilitated, not negotiated. Torchbearer's captain met Elriki at a former Valari military archive. The room smelled of dust and failure. Elriki watched as the humans scanned ancient war records with surgical interest. "Why help us rebuild?" she asked. "Because your people still fight," he said. "And that's rare. Others fought too, and we buried them." Meanwhile, across the Galactic Concord, emergency alliances were proposed, but none dared confront the humans directly. They debated, blamed one another, and waited for Zarkit to test Earth's resolve. That test came in the form of the Mordek. It emerged from hyperspace flanked by escorts, orbiting a captured Volari moon. The fortress ship began planetary bombardment. Cities rebuilt by Volari with human aid were reduced to fire. Civilian convoys vaporized. Volari systems broadcast emergency signals. Human channels picked them up immediately. Torchbearer and his companions arrived without announcement. In synchronized formations, the Terran ships broke the siege. Warden-class cruisers drew fire. Torchbearer bypassed Zarkit targeting systems, using a technique the galaxy hadn't seen in centuries. Grav phase cycling. The Mordeka's shields collapsed. Terran kinetic lances pierced the hull and split it open mid-orbit. What remained of the fortress ship imploded into its own gravity field. The 6 Zarkith escorts scattered. 2 made it out alive. For the first time in Zarkith history, a command vessel was lost. Terran ships returned to low orbit. No celebration. No declaration. They began relief operations before the ash settled. On the surface, Volari command was stunned. Elriki watched as her people, once scattered, humiliated, now moved with purpose, with coordination, and most chillingly, with quiet, human-backed confidence. "What do you want from us?" she asked Torchbearer's captain again. "We want you to stand," he replied. "Why us?" "Because the rest of the galaxy kneels." In secret chambers deep within Earth's command sanctums, mission analysts reviewed the new data. Zarkith doctrine cracked. Galactic factions paralyzed. Volari adapting quickly. The results aligned with predictions. One Terran general simply stated, "Initiate the ascension pattern. They're ready." Unbeknownst to the Volari, their planet was now part of a larger human framework, one hidden behind layers of classified protocol. Phase 2 was no longer extraction. It was elevation. Volari engineers received encrypted tool sets. Designs with no labels, only schematics. Shipyards reopened under Terran orbital scaffolding. Young Volari cadets trained side by side with Terran operators. Some began to speak in human tactical code. It wasn't assimilation. It was transformation. A Volari child asked a human soldier during a relief effort, "Are you gods?" The soldier paused. "No, we just remember what we are." News of Mordeka's destruction triggered chaos in the galactic core. Zarkith attempted to spin propaganda. It was sabotage, faulty systems, fabricated footage. But everyone saw the raw sensor feeds. Unedited, the truth couldn't be suppressed. Whispers turned into rumors. Rumors into belief. Terrans were no longer myth. The Relashi Council sent a diplomatic envoy to Earth. It never returned. Meanwhile, on a remote Volari colony world, Zarkith agents attempted to launch precision strike on a Terran outpost. They breached the perimeter and vanished. No gunfire. No wreckage. Just silence. The next day, a message was broadcast on untraceable frequencies across Zarkith space. "Attack again, and we come for your homeworld." No sign-off. No emblem. Just Terran protocol. Zarkith faltered. The Galactic Concord sent a soft message to the Terran Relay Network. "We request dialogue." Earth replied with a list of coordinates. No context. The coordinates led to mass graves across the galaxy. Sites where entire species have been exterminated while the Concord debated. Sites Earth had archived, watched, remembered. One Concord official whispered, "They didn't vanish. They were watching." On Volari Prime, the first hybrid fleet launched. Volari ships, human cores, joined command. They didn't wave banners. They didn't swear oaths. They simply moved. Torchbearer remained in orbit, now serving as a strategic anchor. Its captain met with Elriki once more. This time, she wore newly forged command armor. Volari forged, Terran reinforced. She asked, "What happens next?" "We draw a line," the captain said, "and we don't let them cross it." "Who is we?" "You. Us. Whoever remembers what it means to fight for the broken." In a forgotten archive beneath Valari ruins, Elriki accessed ancient prophecy files. Tales of Star Walkers, beings of judgment who would arrive in Blackfire when called upon. Most thought them myths. She now understood differently. They weren't myths. They were Terrans. The Valari would not just survive, they would rise. And across the stars, the galaxy shivered. Because the one species they'd all agreed to avoid, the one they feared would never forgive or forget, had answered a scream. And they were not leaving. Zarkith Prime blacked out, without warning. One by one, its orbital satellites dimmed. Atmosphere regulators failed. Civilian defense systems went silent. Emergency fleets scrambled to investigate, only to find nothing. No ships, no beacons, just gravity anomalies and echoes of energy signatures not native to any known species. Back in Valari space, Elriki stood aboard Torchbearer's bridge. The Valari now wore Terran exo-armor, carried plasma-forged rifles built to her hand dimensions. Their command hierarchy ran on hybrid tactical logic, instinct layered with Terran precision, her eyes fixed on the stars. "Did you hit them?" Torchbearer's captain responded flatly. "Not yet. That was just a warning." Phase 3 had begun, demonstration of power. Terran fleet deployments escalated quietly. No fanfare. No threats. Human dread carriers began launching stealth payload drones throughout Zarkith-aligned sectors. Infrastructure failed from within. Water sources corrupted via nanoplague. AI cores overridden. Cities powered down one by one. Earth didn't demand surrender. They offered no terms. They dismantled the Zarkith piece by piece, removing their ability to resist. The Zarkith counterattacks came in waves, but each met a different kind of resistance. Not brute force. Not overwhelming numbers. Just precision. Human warcraft deployed multi-angle attacks that bypassed shields. Their soldiers used neural net tethering. One Terran mind coordinating dozens in sync. Entire Zarkith battalions went silent after single engagements. Then, the galaxy began hearing the phrase that terrified even veteran warlords. "Humanity is active." The Relashi tried again to open negotiations. Earth replied with video footage. Colonies abandoned by Concord in the last century. Children frozen in airless shelters. Civilians slaughtered because no one answered their call. The message closed with 5 words. "We didn't forget. We remember." Valari Command now coordinated subsector operations with human officers. They hunted down Zarkith remnants like predators. Valari war chants merged with Terran cadence. For the first time in centuries, a non-human species was executing battle doctrine designed by Earth, and they were winning. But the galaxy couldn't look away. Every species who had watched the humans vanish now realized their mistake. Because humans didn't disappear. They went silent. To prepare, Torchbearer transmitted live data from every operation, recordings of Terran Valari joint squads breaching Zarkith facilities. No deaths unless necessary. But no hesitation. Children rescued. Laboratories liberated. Biological weapons dismantled. Galactic civilian networks overflowed with the footage. On fringe worlds, statues of human warriors began to appear, cloaked, faceless, unbowed. The message was spreading. They answer, they act, they remember. Inside Earth's deep core command, project leads reviewed Zarkith degradation. Projected collapse within 6 months. Valari ascension within 4. Galactic concord? Irrelevant. The human general watching the data spoke simply. Prepare alpha withdrawal, because that was a final Terran doctrine. Respond. Stabilize. Leave. The Valari would inherit the front. Humanity would vanish again. Elriki was called into a closed chamber aboard Torchbearer. There, she found not just a captain, but 4 human fleet officers and a full simulation of Valari space. "We're handing over control," one officer said. "You don't belong to us. We don't build empires. We just stop collapses." She blinked. "You're leaving?" "Soon. But We leave differently than we came. Outside, massive orbital structures materialized, terraformers, medical production units, power grids, all automated and self-sustaining. A gift of survival, left without condition. You're not like the others, Elriki whispered. You don't conquer. You don't demand. No, the captain said. We just remember what happens when good people scream and no one answers. A moment of silence passed. Promise me, he said. You'll do the same? She nodded slowly. We will. Back in Zarkit territory, the Dominion collapsed into civil panic. Commanders turned on each other. Some tried to flee. Others attempted last stands. But none could match Terran velocity, stealth, or psychological warfare. Entire command centers opened their doors in surrender. No humans present. Just the knowledge they were being watched. In one final broadcast, Zarkith leadership begged for truce. Humanity never responded. They didn't have to. The Zarkith Dominion fractured and fell. Torchbearer left Valari space after one last operation, delivering encrypted blueprints and core data into Valari hands. Not just weapons, but infrastructure, civilization frameworks, independence, and a message. You are the answer now. As Earth ships withdrew beyond known space, the galaxy watched with a mixture of awe and terror. Why didn't they stay? Why didn't they rule? Because Terrans didn't fight for power. They fought for silence. For every unanswered cry they'd buried in their past. Valari rose, rebuilt, and when another species whispered for help in the dark, it wasn't humans who answered first. It was Valari. And when asked why, Elriki spoke one sentence. Because they taught us to never look away. In time, the galaxy remembered two things. The Zarkith fell not because they were weak, but because they made the fatal mistake of hurting someone loud enough for the Terrans to hear. And more importantly, when humanity answers, it's already over. When they leave, the lesson begins. And when they remember, the stars change forever.